But the main purpose of this meeting is for us to kind of work together to make any sort of changes that we deem necessary on the comprehensive plan itself. And then there will be one more meeting after this one where the public then is allowed to see and comment on the changes that happened from tonight's meeting. So, anyone want to start?
Yes, I'd like to, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
My first point that I want to bring up out of three was that I don't think we should change any zone that's already a completely developed zone. Like this new map feature implies that South Point, the SD district of South Point, is going to be eliminated or just disappears. That's a fully built out plan. If you change them from SD to this proposal of mixed use, they all become non-conforming. Every existing building there is non-conforming. And the bad thing is we know about non-conforming is that if a business wants to go just add a sign, they're non-conforming. They have to go to the zoning hearing board for every item they want to do on their buildings or on their lots. Where if they stay SD, the way it is now, they're always in compliance and they just have to get a building permit as long as they meet this SD ordinance for setbacks or sign size or whatever parking lot increases. It's already established, and they just follow the permit process that way in the site plan process.
Any idea why the comprehensive plan committee did that?
I don't know. To me, the last lot was sold, the last building is up already, so there will be no more development in there. So, just for a planning purpose, it doesn't make sense to make somebody non-conforming for no reason. You normally, non-conforming gets created normally whenever you take a big tract and change it to something, and there's already a few existing uses in there that we automatically make non-conforming because we took a big undeveloped tract and developed it. So those ones that are there need protection, that if we change the zone on them, they still, under a non-conforming, which is a grandfather item, that they can still operate their business. They still are a little bit of a disadvantage because they have to go to the zoning hearing board for items and things like that. But you normally change zones on an undeveloped tract because that's what you're doing. You're steering what you think your development should be in those areas.
Well, so is it this whole area here that's mixed use?
No, South Point, I highlighted in here.
Oh, I see.
It's shaped like a figure 8 or something like that, or a slipper.
Yeah.
That's the area that's right. This is the.
I see.
And to me, I don't have any problem on these other ones. Areas they're showing either changing or proposing to be changed, but South Point's done. The second thing I just want to mention is this is our opportunity now to fortify our tax base. Again, tax bases are fortified through commercial and industrial development. And normally on a case-by-case basis, if an individual property owner comes to the township, he has a right to request to have his property zoned. So if one property owner anywhere in this township decides he would like to have a zoning change, he's on his own now. We have to decide whether that's spot zoning, whether it's compatible with the neighborhood, on an individual case-by-case basis for small lots. The purpose of the comprehensive plan and the new future land use map, which we're doing, is to use some vision and decide where we would like to see, what areas we'd like to see developed, first around the utilities that are available, and also how we want to see developed, whether we want to see it become residential or commercial or even industrial.
To your point, there's an area off of like Chaffoni Road, all of this that's now mixed use. That makes no sense to me because you put mixed use to my knowledge, where it's developable. But that's not developable, there's no utilities there. So you're basically taking a use in the township and saying, okay, we're gonna make this area mixed use, knowing full well that nobody can ever actually develop there. Or not without great expense.
But that's not true. All this property here from Glass Hill Road all the way over to where Johnny Yago lives, they're above the Miller's Run watershed. Part of the property, some of it would go towards Muse and some would go towards Miller's Run by Glass Hill Road. Well, this goes that way, this way.
There's no utilities there.
Well, the developers do that. We don't develop anything. If this parcel is zoned for mixed use, The developer would then run his main line extension out there to develop that property. That's how.
You're gonna tell me that a developer is gonna come in and pay to run utilities all the way up there when it's not really off any significant main road? I mean, yes, it's sort of off of State Route, and maybe it's sort of off of East Bishop, but it's not really. Like, as compared to some of these other, like, open areas that really truly are not, I don't say not residential, but like off of main roads, like this part of this, kind of looks like a horse, makes 0 sense to me.
There's probably 4,500 feet of frontage on 980, and probably on both sides of this road, there's probably another 1,500, 3,000,
What
6,000.
utilities are there?
What you're talking about state road utilities.
No, utilities on the.
There's water there, and they would have to run the sewer line up, that's the utility that's missing. And that's always the case for undeveloped property. But the township never runs main sewer line. We're having a hard time funding the Lawrence project, and that's an existing village, it's in our straits. That we're probably going to be able to help them with. With new development, we never develop anything. If the developer doesn't come, then it just sits undeveloped.
Right, but you're saying, and I agree with you,
Isn't
that
that
we need,
clearly spot zoning?
but we need to bolster our tax base. Like, that's our biggest problem, is you look at the municipalities surrounding us, and they have significantly higher tax bases because of how they plan things. That is not well planned. Like, nobody is going to come in and develop anything smack in the middle of that section. I just don't, I don't think it's wise planning. I agree with you, like, about not changing South Point from SD to mixed use. In the same way, I don't think that I kind of feel like, and I'm not trying to insult the people who spend a lot of time, but I'd like to know the thought process behind why that got changed to mixed use.
I think at that meeting, where there was a work session, I think Janet Dupuis stood up, and then Dan Dodgeoff stood up and said that those people in that area who was developing and using all the new plans, they need some kind of a commercial area to access rather than driving to Cannon for it all the time.
Yeah,
Right.
but we turned Delbo down, it's at the end of the road,
But,
and now you want to approve this.
but.
Which-
Sorry.
She shouldn't have been on the panel requesting this. wasn't it?
That's why, yeah, that's whatever the bridge.
No, it's not, Tom. It's like she's there rezoning her own property.
That is kind of what it feels like, Tom, because the reality is, like, you're not gonna build a commercial building for essentially 2 neighborhoods and use. Like, you need to draw more people from, other than just in the small area that surrounds it, and no developer is gonna come in and put any sort of development off of Glass Hill Road or Chaconne Road. There's nothing around it.
They won't if there's, if it's not zoned for either.
But either way, like, you.
Either way,
like-
if there's not utility or the zoning, they're not gonna come here anyway.
It just, to me, and I'm not trying to cause a problem here, but to me, it feels like Elizabeth Cowan was on that committee, and she wanted mixed use makes your property more valuable. So she made her property more valuable by getting its own mixed use, when it's not really the most.
Okay, just the third one I want to bring up is, the future land use map is proposing a new zone called that mixed use. When you create a zone, you have to have the categories of, what permitted uses, conditional uses, use by special exception. So I drew up something as a proposal for that mixed use, if it gets adopted as a mixed use, like all this color here with the red stripes on it that they show. Whether we take some out or not, that's another story, but if we keep any of a new zone, you have to have a description for them, and that's mine. Jack, did you make it new? Oh, here they are. Did you just have to remove it? Yeah. The next, last category in our 900 section for zoning was the Parks and Recreation Zone, which was section 915. So the next number, 916, if we're going to create a new zone, we have to say what are the uses by right. So my proposal was, and it was always important to the committee, residential uses and mild commercial. No industrial, just residential, mild commercial. So our most restrictive residential, that first category is the same as R1, exactly the same. The second one is R2. I just took out the R2 category above it. If you look in your ordinance book, that second category is all the R2. The third one is all the mildest ones, village commercial, which is R3. Then the next one is C1. The next one is C1. That's this category, this page here. The only thing I took out, because I always thought that the most severe use in commercial was automotive body shops and gas stations or service stations. So that was just a proposal. But other than that, in a mixed zone, we allow all commercial uses except those two. Then the next one is C2, which is a milder commercial. The last one is R3 or C3, which is the mildest commercial. They call it village commercial. So like
Can you back up it? So just to be clear, so you, mixed use is the first one, it would be residential and mild commercial.
Yeah, and all the commercial except the serious ones that we might want to keep out of it.
You didn't change anything from R1 or R2, right?
No. The only thing I proposed was.
And R3 you didn't either.
Right, or C2 or C3, because those
But
are mild.
C1, you're removing gas and automotive.
Only because that's our most serious commercial. We knew this was going to be a step down from seriousness, from pure commercial to a mixed use.
Well, where's the rest of them? Like, where's industrial and,
Well, they didn't propose any industrial in this mixed use. This is supposed to be less severe than commercial. It's a mixed use of residential and compatible commercials. So if the board would like to keep gas stations there, that's up to the board. If you keep gas station service, or even take more out. If you look at the C1, there might be consider a serious thing like a greenhouse commercial. That's in C1. That's on this back to the first page, number 12. You see that on back to the first page. It's a greenhouse commercial. If you think that's too serious for a mixed use, then that could be taken out too. But I don't really see anything else. Most of them are.
so you're saying the only thing that would be included in mixed use is residential R1, 2, and 3, and then commercial C1, 2, and 3,
With some exceptions.
with no gas station.
Well, that's
That's the
my
only change I see though. So
Right,
if you're not
that's
changing R1, 2, or 3, you remove gas stations from C1, and then there's no changes to C2 or C3. The only thing you took out of this is gas stations.
right.
And
I thought that was the most serious.
Only thing is you're talking about this developing this stuff, and you go on here, no building exceeding 3,500 square feet. I think Dollar General, right under 9,000,
Where you reading from, Ron?
right here.
On number 23.
15 on the second page. Down at the bottom.
That's in that particular zone. That's in C2. You're allowed in C1, which also allows it in the mixed use then. If you look up there for convenience stores, it'll be up there. See, number 8 in C1. The ordinance would look like this. I just listed so you could see all the different uses in those 6 categories. It would just say, in a mixed-use district, in this district, the land may be used and buildings and structures may be erected, altered, or used by right for the following purposes. And it will say all uses in R1, all uses in R2, all uses in R3, all uses except in C1, all uses in C2, and all uses in C3. That's the end. That's the description of the new mixed-use district. So anybody can look in there, if their property is on mixed use, they can see exactly, by looking back to the prior pages in the ordinance, I can do all these, or any of these that are listed.
So the comprehensive plan lists the description as mixed use as apartments, small retail, office, duplexes, restaurants, banks, townhomes, single-family resident, master plan development only.